Welcome back everybody to Bar Run Forge and another Monday morning tool video. Today we're going to be making a bending fork. Stick around. So what is a bending fork? Well, we're going to kind of use this as an example. This is actually an old John Deere wrench that I kind of remade into a bending fork, and you can do that. We've got a couple other pieces in the shop here that we're planning on making bending forks out of that are just old tools or things that were used for something else, and we're going to use it for a bending fork. Now, how a bending fork works is, say for instance, you've got some forks here in your vise and you want to bend that around there. You can use this, and this is always the fun part, is just, it's a piece of leverage. So you can use that to just basically control that bend around there. So that's what bending forks are used for. And usually they're hot metal, but we're gonna make a little bit bigger and a little bit sturdier version of this. To make our version of the bending fork, we're gonna be using this piece of mild steel. Now you can make them out of hardened steel and they will probably last longer and put up with more abuse. But our piece we're going to use is a piece of 1/2 inch by 1 inch mild steel. That is, the 1/2 inch is 12.5 millimeters by 25 millimeters, 1 inch. And the length is not important right now. We're going to use this entire piece so I can hold on to it with my hand. We've got some drawing out to do. Now what I have done is already marked out with some center punch marks what we plan on doing. So we'll set down this piece down to this mark, and then that will all be drawn out. That's about 2 inches long. So what we hope to do is divide it in half, and that means twice that material will go this way. So this length will be almost 4 inches. And if it's more than what we need, we can cut it off, it's okay. And what that does is that creates this point. So that creates the tine or the tooth on this. Then we'll go back this direction, which is about 2 inches as well. We'll do a set down here and draw that entire handle or rein out to the point that we like it, then cut it off. The hard part is this part right here, creating that. And what we'll do is we'll take a fuller and we'll just keep moving that material that way and push it up into the other fork or the other tine of the bending fork. So that's the plan. Stick around as we get right to it. All right, find our mark. Set that down. All right, now that that's established, we'll put it back in the fire. So I'm just going to taper this down just a little bit, put a little round to it. Going to the far side of the anvil, find our marks. We have the two different points set down already. This will be the front tine. This space in here, we're going to smash it that way to make the back tine, and then we'll draw these out as a rein or a handle. Kind of have a rough length, so I'm going to cut it off right here, then I'll refine the end of that, and that way we'll have our handle at least established, and then we'll work towards that second time. With the handle pretty much on the dimension that we want it to, not completely finished, but pretty close. Now we can start working on this last tine to the bending fork. What we'll be doing is taking this to the vise, and we've taken both a set hammer and a fuller, and just keep working this and working this material out, trying to pull that material out. forward tine is at the proper dimensions. It is entirely too long, but that's okay because we want to go ahead and do the bend and equal it up to this front tine here. Bending fork, or some people call it a bending wrench, is complete. This is kind of a fun project, kind of challenging in some different ways to get steel to move in a couple different directions. We're pretty happy with how it turned out. We did use it out of mild steel. Now know that if you use mild steel, it is weaker than the hardenable steel, but we're going to really pay attention to not putting a massive amount of torque on it. I only made it about a 1/2 inch wide, so we're not going to use massive stock on it either. Which means we really have to pay attention to that. This is going to be very, very handy. We're going to actually do an example of that here in just a second. So after seeing that, our biblical connection comes from 2 Samuel 22:35. And this is a fun one because it says, God, He trains my hands for battle, and my arms can bend a bow of bronze. That's pretty impressive. And so when we're thinking about bending things ourselves, we need to rely on God, to allow God to bend things to His will, to not bend to our will, but to bend to His will. Because He can actually strengthen us to even bend bows of bronze. See, we can do far more with God than we can by ourselves or even with a tool like this. Thank you guys so much for joining in. God bless you all for coming here. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.